All right, let's just jump right in. Imagine a guy, he's been chasing success for years. I mean, he's done it all. Read every book, tried every new trick in the book, hit the reset button a dozen times, but nothing. Nothing sticks. He's just stuck on this treadmill, right? Going nowhere, and he has no idea why. That's the core problem we're going to tackle.
So, when you're stuck in a loop like that, what's the first question that pops into your head? It's almost always, what should I do? You know? We immediately start searching for a new action, a different strategy, some kind of silver bullet that's going to fix everything. But what if that's not even the right question to be asking? Yeah, because there's a way more powerful question waiting for us. So instead of asking, what should I do? The guy in our story finally asks himself something different. He asks, who am I being? And that right there, that tiny little shift in focus from doing to being, well, that's the thing that changes the entire game.
So that question, who am I being? It points to this massive truth that's kind of hiding in plain sight. The results you get in your life, they're not random. Not at all. There's an invisible structure behind them. So let's do this. Let's pull back the curtain and take a look at the engine that's really driving everything for you.
And when we get right down to the root of that whole structure, we find this one fundamental principle. It's called the law of identity. And trust me, this is the force that's shaping literally everything. Your job, your health, your relationships, all of it.
Okay, so what do we even mean by identity? Look, it's not what you say you are. It's not the stuff you put on a vision board, like I want to be a successful person. No, your real identity is what you repeatedly prove to yourself day in and day out through your actions. It's really just the sum of what you do.
And this whole thing creates this incredibly powerful feedback loop that's basically running our lives, whether we realize it or not. Here's how it works. It starts with your core identity. That identity then drives your behavior. Your behavior produces a certain outcome. And here's the key part. That outcome then circles right back around and reinforces the identity you started with. It locks the whole thing in place. It's a cycle.
This is it. This is the heart of the whole thing. The big idea is this. You do not get what you want in life. You get who you are. Your results are just a mirror reflecting your identity, plain and simple. It's not about attracting what you want. It's about getting what you are.
Okay, let's make this super concrete. Think about a professional who's just stuck. You know, their career is totally stalled out. They're trying all sorts of things, but nothing's working. Why? Well, if we dig down deep, their underlying identity is that of an employee. And what does that identity do? It makes them wait for permission, it makes them shy away from risk, it makes them pass the buck on big decisions.
But now, watch this. What happens if they make a shift? What if that same person starts thinking of themselves, starts cultivating the identity of a builder? All of a sudden, their behavior just naturally changes. They start initiating projects. They start taking ownership. They create their own opportunities. And voila, the outcome, career growth, starts to happen. But it only happened because their core identity shifted first.
And this brings us to a really, really big point. You ever wonder why traditional goal setting fails so often? You know, you start the year strong, you're all fired up, and then you just fizzle out. Well, it's because we're focusing on the completely wrong end of the equation.
This really gets to the core of it. On one side, you have outcome chasing. That's like running on a hamster wheel, right? You're chasing some external thing, like more money or a certain number on the scale. The behavior feels forced, and it almost never lasts. But on the other side, you have identity shaping. This is totally different. It's about your internal world, about deciding what kind of person you want to be. And when you start there, the right behaviors just flow. They become natural, they become consistent.
So here's the bottom line, and this is so important. If your identity doesn't support your goal, your behavior will always snap back to your baseline. It's like a rubber band. And listen, this isn't you failing. It's not a lack of willpower. It's just your internal system doing its job. It's self-correcting to stay aligned with who you believe you are. I mean, the classic example is weight loss, right? We've all seen this. Someone starts a brand new, super strict diet. But if deep down their identity is, I'm just someone who struggles with discipline, or I'm the kind of person who always fails at diets, well, that identity is going to find a way to undermine the new behavior every single time.
But here's the alternative, and this is where the magic happens. Instead of forcing yourself onto a diet, what if you just focused on one thing, becoming a person who takes care of their body? See that shift? Suddenly making healthy choices isn't a fight anymore. It's just the default. It's just who you are. And that's when the behavior becomes consistent and stable for the long haul. Now, to actually put this into practice, this requires a pretty big mental shift.
It means you have to stop blaming all the external stuff, the economy, your boss, your childhood, whatever it is, and instead turn inward and take full ownership of your internal world.
There's this amazing quote from Carl Jung that just hits the nail on the head. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that's exactly what we're talking about. These unexamined identity patterns, they're running the whole show from behind the scenes. And we just look at the results and say, oh, well, I guess that's fate. The first step to getting in the driver's seat is just to see the pattern.
And that's what real responsibility is all about. It's not about beating yourself up or feeling guilty. It's the complete opposite. Responsibility is simply the power to respond. It's about accepting that you are the author of your story. Yeah, it takes away all your excuses, but it also takes away the feeling of being helpless. It puts the pen right back in your hand.
This isn't some new age idea. Aristotle was talking about this thousands of years ago. He basically said, excellence isn't an act, it's a habit. Your identity isn't built in one giant heroic moment. It's forged in the tiny little things you do over and over and over again every single day. Those actions become habits, and eventually, those habits become who you are.
Okay, theory's great, but let's get practical. How can you actually see this law at work in your own life, like right now? We're going to use a really simple tool to map out your life's current blueprint. We're going to trace your results all the way back to the source.
And the process is super straightforward. First, just pick one area of your life. Could be your career, your health, relationships, whatever. Step 2, you got to be brutally honest with yourself. What is your current outcome? Then you just work backward. What are the repeated behaviors that are creating this result? And once you've listed those out, you ask the million-dollar question. What kind of person behaves this way? That answer, that's the identity driving everything.
So here's what that looks like in action. Let's say the area is business. The outcome? The business isn't growing. Okay, what are the behaviors? Well, inconsistent marketing, avoiding sales calls, that kind of stuff. So you ask the question, what kind of person does that? Someone who believes, I am not confident in selling. Boom! See how clear that is? Once you see that root identity, you know exactly what needs to change.
Now look, doing an exercise like this, it can be a little confronting, for sure, but it's also one of the most empowering things you can do, because it shows you that you're not broken, you're not permanently stuck, you are just patterned. And the amazing thing about a pattern, it can be seen, it can be understood, and most importantly, it can be changed.
So let's bring this all home with one last really powerful thought. The real work here, it's not about chasing some better life that's out there somewhere. It's not about chasing a different outcome. No, it's about becoming the kind of person for whom that better life is just inevitable. It's the natural, logical conclusion. You change who you are, and your life has no choice but to follow. So the question to leave you with isn't, what are you going to do? The real question is, who are you deciding to be?